What up, fight fans? So May 16th sees the return of Gennady Triple G Golovkin once again to the Forum in LA as he is set to face Willie Monroe Jr. I meant to report this actually yesterday, but just got really tied up and just kind of forgot. But yo, man, Gennady Golovkin, more so than a lot of the current fighters in boxing, man, is becoming very active, man, as far as coming off the February fight with Martin Murray, in which he won I think it was a 10th round or 9th round stoppage of Murray, and now 3 months later he's going to be in a fight with Willie Monroe Jr. Now, off rip, people or most, well, definitely the casuals, but even some of the hardcore fans don't know who Willie Monroe Jr. is. He's coming off a win over Brian Vera, who's somewhat of a name, but hasn't fought like, or at least beaten top level guys. So it's tough to gauge really what Willie Monroe Jr. is going to bring. He's 19-1 with 6 knockouts, and again, like this is a situation I think for Golovkin, being the fight is in LA. Again, to just attract more fans. I think this is HBO's continuing plan to build Golovkin's name and turn him into a household name. And, putting him on HBO, especially having him fight in LA where, when the last time we saw him in LA was against Marco Antonio Rubio. And you can see that the Mexican fan base are really attracted to Golovkin. And it's a no-brainer that they're going to have this fight or have his second coming in the United States and LA again. So as far as the fight's concerned, man, like, I think with a lot of people, I think this is, like I said, just another stay busy fight for Golovkin. There's not a lot of guys at the middleweight division right now that really are waiting in line to fight Golovkin. You know what I mean? It's not like there's necessarily a pecking order of guys just waiting to have an opportunity to fight Golovkin. I think the names at the helm that when we're talking about guys at middleweight or guys that could fight or have fought at middleweight or guys who have titles at middleweight that he could potentially, or at least people would want to see him in the ring with. And those names are Peter Quillen, Andy Lee, who both are going to be fighting next month, David Lemieux, and then you have the Cotto and Canelo fights, who are somewhat of the dark horses, but are the bigger money fights for him. So, he's been calling out Miguel Cotto now since the beginning of the year, and now we've already seen the Cotto-Canelo situation not occur, and Cotto's now new contract with Rock Nation, which leads me to believe that Cotto Canelo in the fall is going to be, they're going to revisit that fight again, being that Cotto's in a new situation. He's got new money, more money. Something tells me if both guys win their next upcoming fights, we still don't know what the deal with Cotto is yet, I think that's the obvious go-to fight for the fall. So really, this leaves Golovkin with very slim choices as far as fights to put him over the helm with the casual fans or for people who at least right now don't know who he is. So for the better part, I think, of 2015, I think we're likely going to see fights like this, with the exception of, we do see a Golovkin versus the winner of Andy Lee and Peter Quillen in the fall. I'm still a little apprehensive as to saying that fight is guaranteed and it is going to happen. But if you were to ask me the future of Gennady Golovkin as far as 2015 is concerned, I think we're looking at a fight with Willie Monroe Jr. Obviously, that's going to happen May 16th. And I'm thinking a fight with David Lemieux in Canada for the following, for his next fight, because David Lemieux will have, in a sense, a following in Canada, and being that Golovkin, for, across the board for boxing fans, people are going to want to go see this fight, especially if they do have it in Canada. So the tickets are on sale for those who are in the LA area. I think the tickets are as low as $30. If I'm in LA, man, and you're a boxing fan, and for tickets that cheap, I'd be all over that, you know. And I think even with the atmosphere that was shown in Golovkin's last fight, I think it was at the StubHub Center. I mean, electric, man. And again, this is a guy who isn't Mexican, and you know, obviously based on his fight style, you know, the Mexicans are going to obviously be attracted to him, and a lot of boxing fans are. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're somebody who loves the sweet science or loves a guy that just is a wrecking machine, you know, I think he kind of pleases both in a sense. So May 16th on HBO. Willie Monroe, Gennady Golovkin, Willie Monroe Jr. It's, again, tough for me to really just have a over thought out prediction for this fight, but I mean, I am heavily leaning towards Gennady Golovkin stopping Willie Monroe Jr. But again, man, Golovkin, you know, this type of fight to me kind of reminds me. Sorry, we're going live. This fight kind of reminds me of, at least in the sense for Golovkin, you know, when you look at guys in the 80s and the 70s and even part of the 90s, you know, I think in the recent years, we're so used to seeing guys fight like once or twice a year, especially if you're a champion. Where back in the day, man, I mean, we used to see guys like Marvin Hagler and Roberto Duran. I mean, Roberto Duran more in the past, but we used to see these guys fight like every 3 months. And not every one of these fights were against elite level competitors. So, you know, it's almost as if like they're treating Golovkin like a throwback fighter where, you know, he's going to be a guy that you might see 4 times a year, you know, because if he's fighting in May, you know, Golovkin, if we're talking about May, June, July, what if he fights again in August and then September, October, November, and December? If he goes this route, man, he's fighting 4 times in 1 year, which makes him very active and almost unlike most fighters, like I said, who are fighting like once or twice a year. It can only benefit him. And I think, again, for the fact that he is like 30, 31 years old, not a spring chicken, you got to get in as many rounds as possible and really build your brand maybe a little quicker than the quintessential, you know, up-and-comer, you know, 22, 23-year-old fighter who is fighting on a more consistent basis. You know, Golovkin doesn't have a lot of time to build an enormous fan base, and he's already doing it, you know, with the Mexican crowd and even some of the casual fans who hit me up from time to time, like, yo, who's this Triple G guy? So, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens, but May 16th, Gennady Golovkin, Willie Monroe Jr. live on HBO. Let me know what you think of that fight. Let me know who would you like to see Golovkin fight next. And until then, I always say subscribe, hit the links, and I'll be back with you soon. Peace.